Number 7. Track C. Open source monitoring.
He is Senior Computer Security Engineer, specializing in penetration testing and incident response. Rob has participated in investigations of computer systems intrusions and has been called as an expert witness in judicial cases. Recently, he appeared on an NPR radio segment which showcased the security of lack of secure found throughout the internet and on corporate networks. Rob has been involved with open source monitoring, penetration testing, certification and incident response work for the past 6 years. And with that, I'll turn it over to Rob.
Thank you. How many of you know what open source monitoring is before I begin? Very good. 1, 2, maybe 3 people. Well, let me give you a definition of what I believe it is, and I'll explain what it is not, because there's a lot of misconceptions out there about what open source monitoring can do for you. First of all, some people have called open source monitoring a art. They've called it a science, but it's a precise plan or process which searches or monitors for specific information in any type of public media, whether that be electronic or non-electronic news or magazines. It's essential for IT administrators and security departments, because you have people out there posting messages about your internal network, what kind of operating systems you have, what type of routers you have, what type of dial-ups you have, if you have a Livingston dial-up, and people can take that information and say, hey, there's a new exploit for a Livingston, let me try it against this corporation. Human resources, it touches, you can see if anybody's posting to sexual news groups, which can violate some type of corporate policy, and the legal department can use it. For example, if a company is going to go IPO, there's like a 90-day quiet period. You don't want anybody posting information which can stop your IPO. You don't want anybody telling about any new products, any financial data that's projected from inside the company, or else you'll be swamped with legalese, and it could validate or could stop your IPO. And it'll help you with your marketing and performance. It'll give you feedback on how customers perceive your products, perceive your services, what you're doing right, what you're doing wrong. What it is not email monitoring. It can't monitor your email. It's not an intrusion detection system. If somebody breaks into your network, you're not going to know it through OSM unless somebody's bold enough and brave enough to broadcast the fact that, hey, look here, I broke into the Acme Corporation and this is how I did it. If you want intrusion detection, follow what she said. The lady before me, get some experts to install it for you and have people that are capable to monitor it. You can't monitor employee activity because people go home, they have ISP accounts, whether through AOL, Arrows, whoever, and unless they put the company's name in there and say, hey, I work for this company, you're not going to know who they are. They can go to a cyber cafe, to a library, and use one of their accounts. And it can't be used as sole source for critical information. Sometimes you'll have a news group, might have 100, 200 postings from a dozen or a couple dozen different users, but in reality it's only 1 or 2 people who have multiple accounts trying to disgrade this company. Why do you need it? I can give you 3 reasons: a business case, due diligence case, and a common sense case. Nobody has 100% protection, but if you know your threats and you fix your vulnerabilities, you can reduce your risk. A small company, such as a startup, you have a couple of offices and they're separated by a hallway, you're going to run Cat5 cable across up in the ceilings. You're not going to worry too much about somebody coming in and sniffing that data. If you were in the Pentagon or in a large financial institution where you have critical data, financial transactions going across the hallway, you're going to either want to encrypt it or put that Cat5 wire in some type of casing. Due diligence case, as I said before, you can get a public opinion, what people think about your products. People compare your products against your competitors' products. People in your company probably are doing this now and they don't even know it. You go visit a web page of another company and you just see what they're up to. And People visit your web pages, you visit different departments within your company to see what they're doing. This is OSM in a small sense, but when you bring everything together, you get a clear, concise picture of everything that's going on. You can keep track on employees and former employees. Some former employees may have signed non-disclosure forms saying, hey, I can't say that I work for this company, or I can't tell the kind of work I've done, or my clients, well, they leave your company and a year later you see their resume up on careerbuilders.com and it says, hey, I worked for this company and these were my clients and I did all these kind of neat kind of things for them. Common sense case helps you enforce policies. We saw one case where it was a very dedicated worker. He was at work early, stayed late, but he got tired of the office, so he wanted to work at home. He decided to install a modem into his work machine and work at home a few hours a night. So he didn't know how to do this. He researched it. He put a Rockwell modem into his machine, and he was able to dial out. But he couldn't, when he was at home, he couldn't dial into his work machine. So he sent a message out onto a news group, I think it was Comp Modem Rockwell or something, said, how do I do this? Somebody responded and said, go get this software called PC Anywhere. Get this version, it's great. So he went and got the PC Anywhere, installed it, and he was able to log in from home. Well, the problem with that, PC Anywhere, the version he had, came with no password. The default was no password. So he was a good security conscious guy, or thought he was. He sent another posting out saying, hey, there's no password on my machine and I can get in from home and I can see my whole internal network. What do I do? Well, he received a response saying, email me your phone number and I'll take a look at it and I'll fix the problem for you, and give me your password and I'll set it for you. So, yeah, this is a fun case. You can, as I said before, and receive customer feedback goes across all three cases, and it's a single source of information. Any department can use it. It's not strictly a security product. You can get your legal department into it. You can get your HR department, even your marketing, and you can all combine your efforts internally to do it, or your resources you can combine to get somebody externally to do it. What types of media are monitored? Web pages are monitored. You do this through basic search engines, Alta Vista, Dogpile, Yahoo. You have keywords that you go and you search on. There's a couple tools out there, WebWhacker and WebSeeker. What these are, they're databases which keep track of web pages that you've visited. Say, for instance, you search on a keyword and you get 300 responses. Say there's 300 web pages out there for these keywords. Well, instead of having to go visit each of those every day, WebWhacker will tell you when the content's changed. So you only have to go look at it one time, see if there's any pertinent information on there, and then that's saved in your database, and when the content's changed, you're notified and you get a flag. It says, hey, go look at this page again. So you're not going there every day and you have to read through everything and make sure the content hasn't changed. You can, news is another type of media to monitor. You can do it through Deja or Alta Vista, the same keyword searches, or you could get your own news server and news feed. That way you're ensuring that no news is filtered out by your ISP, or by an ISP. You can set up an agreement with them and say, I want all of these news feeds coming in. Other groups, Mudge talked about this morning, chat groups, IRC, people throwing all types of operating systems around, all types of applications around. Basically what you do is you enter a chat group, and you should only look at we only look at the high profile ones. Other chat groups might suit your needs, but you log in and you script all the transactions that go on, and you have a program, once the file is saved, that goes through and searches for your keywords. Message boards such as Yahoo, AOL, CNN, and the financial ones like Raging Bull and TechStocks are becoming more and more important because people are going out there falsifying rumors about companies, trying to short stock, and all kind of rumors are flying about corporations on these message boards, and it's good to know what types of rumors are flying. Again, you can find operating systems and applications not only on IRC, but you can find them through FTP sites. Other types of media to monitor are bulletin boards and any type of public media, news, radio, whatever, magazines. I'd like to talk about the process, how it's done now. We believe the example that we found works best is that you collect the data, you reduce it, you analyze it, and you report it. And it's a continuous cycle. Actually, before we go on, before I go to the next slide, you want to set up a game plan. I've seen a company that they insource their own open source monitoring. They said, hey, this looks good, but we don't want an outside source to do it, and we don't want anybody to come in and tell us how to do it, so we're going to do it ourselves. What they did is they had their security guards searching at night, and they gave them keywords, and every Sunday night they were responsible to deliver all the data that they found to the security department. Well, every Monday morning the security department was inundated with 1,800 to 2,500 pages of messages. Nobody had time to read that. So what you want to do is you want to set up a game plan, and the game plan consists of initial meeting where you develop keywords, find out who the CEO, find out who key personnel are, the CEO, the CFO, domains that the company has registered, any specific company terms, and other issues which are relevant to the company, new products or services that are coming out that shouldn't be discussed out in any public media. You want to determine a reporting contact. Who do you contact at 11:30 Friday night or 1 a.m. Saturday morning when you find a message out there containing credit card numbers or somebody stating, hey, I just broke into this web page. Then what you need to do is determine priority levels. We call them priority levels, priority 1, 2, or 3. You could call them high, low, or medium, but basically it's priority 1 is the highest, priority 2 is next, priority 3 is final. Examples of priority 1, they're, Priority 1s are reported immediately to the contact. Threats of violence against the company, claims of break-ins, dial-in numbers, anything that's very critical. An example would be somebody's out there and they want to run a script every night on one of their DMZ machines, and they just want to do a who on the machine to see who's on the machine, and he can't figure out how to do this. You post a message and he gets a response saying, hey, create a rhost file and put a plus in it. Well, he opens up trust to everybody now in the world by doing this. Priority 2 would be such things as employees involved in criminal activity. They're stealing laptops from, or they have a bunch of laptops that they're selling, and your company just received a bunch of laptops and they're missing. Another example would be an insider who wants to break into a Unix box, but he doesn't want it to be logged or tracked or anything. He wants to open up a high-level port where he can log in over it. He doesn't want a telnet, he doesn't want an R login, so he sends out a message, how do I break into this Unix box? He receives a response. It wasn't any code or any detailed information on how to do this, but there was a solution and he can research and find out how to do this. And I believe, how many of you want an employee who's interested in creating backdoor Trojans on your internal network? This priority 2 would be reported the next business day. Priority 3, employees posting to alt-sex, racist sites, potential trademark violations. We had one guy who thought he was pretty clever. Every day after lunch, he was coming back and talking about all the fun he had with this lady at a local motel, and he was changing his header information. He was changing it to be John Doe at Acme Corporation. Well, that was just the from message. He wasn't actually editing the entire header information, and it left the company's domain in there, and we tracked it back to the guy, and whatever the company did, they did. So another example of priority 3 would be person bought a new house, and he bought Acme siding. He had a company called Acme who provided the siding, and it had a 25-year warranty on there. Well, after 3 months, the siding started falling apart and corroding, and he was fighting them for 5 years, trying to get his money back, trying to get new siding on there, and finally he got fed up, sent a message to a news group, and the response was, hey, go to this website and check out, there's a class action lawsuit against Acme. Well, if you're Acme, you're going to want to know about these web pages that contain, information such as class action lawsuits against you, or clearing houses for these kind of suits. What happens during the first quarter happens during the second and third and fourth, but it's more intense during the first quarter. You have constant contact with the client for modifications. If you're doing this internally, you're making sure that the people that are doing it are doing the searches, that the data that you're receiving is relevant and it's what you need. If not, you need to go back and look at your search criteria and modify it. And basically it works like this. You know, you have your initial meeting, you have your weekly reports, and you have a review. And then the weekly reports and review are continuous. Now, how do you collect the data? There's a few different ways to do it. One, you can set up your own news server. You can have a bunch of people collecting the data and reporting, or you can subscribe to email list and filter the data. Here's an example of having your own news feed. You have a news server, and you have secondary servers, which the news server collects all the news and it parses it down to the secondary servers and breaks it down by the news group, the business and other news groups. And on those servers, you have a script, which is a Boolean search and greps through for those keywords. If it finds those keywords, it sends it down to the reporting server where somebody could analyze the message later. If it doesn't find it, it just kicks the message out. And the reason I say you break it up into different servers like that, because we've done it where we've had it on one massive server. It took up so much processing time, and the machine had to be so big. It's easier if you break it down. You have collectors. How we do it is we have them spread out through the United States, and everybody gets an individual client. You know, you get customer A, you get customer B, you get customer C. If you do it internally, you can do it by divisions. This person gets the marketing division, this person looks at the financial division, this person looks at the legal division. And that way they become in tune with what's happening with that department or with that company. And if there's any anomalies during that week, it can be reported right away. They're responsible for searching the web. We give them tools such as WebWhacker, look at news groups and message boards. Top left just contains some email lists which you can subscribe to. I'm not going to list them all. I'd have a bunch of slides if I did that. But you subscribe to them. You have one account, coyote@acme.com, and all the messages come into that one guy. And you have a filter program. It searches, hey, this email message contains the Acme Corporation, and it contains break-in or contains password, where it's sent to a reporting machine where it's analyzed later. Reduce the data. There's a lot of cross-postings. One message might go to 5 or 6, maybe a dozen different news groups. Well, in the reduction phase, instead of sending up all those 12 postings, you only reduce it down to 3 or 4, or down to 1, excuse me. Analyzing. Suppose you get a message that says, I'm moving to New York City, I want to break into Broadway, I'm going to live in Soho with some of my friends, and by the way, where's the closest Acme Corporation ATM? Well, this message was collected because it had all the keywords. It had New York City, it had the bank, it had the word break-in. Well, upon analyzing the message, it's clear that the person doesn't want to break into the bank or any of the network. They want to break into Broadway, so this message just is discarded. Reporting, it's electronic, so it's for ease of redistribution. It can be widely disseminated within your company at your discretion. It's timely. Some people believe it should be done monthly, even quarterly, but I just believe it's too much time. So much can happen between January and April that weekly just works for a better basis. Pros and cons. Provide you current and trend data on threats to the company. So we had one company where we were doing it, we were collecting for, and on one of the message boards it said, hey, we're coming up with somebody found that this company registered a new domain. For example, the Acme Corporation registered the new domain tntdynamite.com. And everybody's speculating, hey, what's this new domain going to be? Do they have a new service? Do they have a new product that they're going to deliver? Well, this domain went online before it was even announced. It went online and there was no security even implemented. It was just straight out of the box. Let's put this server out of the box, and it was hacked into. But it was an instance where if, you know, I better not say anymore. Support your due diligence. It's an effective means for your policy compliance and performance feedback. This information, it's out there on the internet, and it's vast and it's wide. But once you start to condense it, and once you start to analyze it and start reporting and putting it in priorities, it becomes very sensitive to your corporation. For external source would get this, competitor, they'd have a real valuable asset on their hands. There's some people out in the industry that are just ambulance chasers. They wait for an incident, and then they try to collect all the data they can on you and produce a report to you and say, see what you're missing by not doing this. There's some people I know that are doing posting false messages out on news groups and message boards and taking it to the company. So you have to be aware and have to do your research on your company if you're going to outsource it. Could become a conflict of interest. For example, you have end of the year and everybody's division managers getting together and they're vying for bonuses and pay salaries for next year. One division manager comes in and his guys were doing open source monitoring on another division, comes in and says, look, John's division does nothing but post to, you know, sexual news groups all day, or they're hanging out in the Hong Kong chat group and they're not getting any work done. They don't deserve any bonuses. Give us all the money. It's supposed to be part of your overall security posture. During an incident, it can help you if you turn it on. One case we had just about a month and a half ago, we were working on an incident and our client asked us to start open source monitoring just for the incident. And what we found another vulnerability somewhere else in their network, a remote location over in Europe, and we closed that vulnerability before that one became an incident also. Policies without enforcement aren't worth the paper they're written on. Your competitors are using it, so you should use it to gain your competitive advantage. And what you don't know can't hurt you, right? Well, there's one case a few months ago. We went out to see a client, and they were receiving a real bad black eye in the public media. And the customer was talking to us, and we told them about open source monitoring, what it can do, and how it can help. And they told us, sure, why don't you do an example report for us, turn open source monitoring on for a month, and report back to me, and I'll look over it, and if it's worthwhile, I'll take it up and see if I could get a budget for this. So we went back and we developed some keywords and researched and did our collecting, our reducing, and we produced the report to the customer. When we gave it to her, she turned white as a ghost, couldn't believe the data that was in there. I walked over to Shredder, threw the report in and said, I don't think anybody in this company needs to see that report, and I want you guys to forget that information. But she totally missed the point. That information's out on the internet. Anybody can get it. It was just condensed. Benefits I want you to take away from here are that you can identify your threat, gain a knowledge of the marketplace, you gain a knowledge of what you don't know, intelligence gathering, and a competitive advantage. I'm sorry some of these slides have changed. I changed some of them last week, and we hired a CFO on Tuesday, and he said, you know, you need to take some of this out, you need to add some of this. So if any of you want the new slides, please feel free to call me or send me an email, and I'll get you a copy of them. Any questions?
Yes, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, it's time for the lunch break. Thank you all. You're down in Virginia, I saw.
Yeah, actually, this program.